Have you ever heard the story of Medusa? A name that has echoed through history as a symbol of fear and danger. For centuries, Medusa has been remembered as a monster, a figure to be avoided, defeated, and erased. Her image appears on ancient shields, modern art, and countless retellings of Greek mythology. Yet most of these stories begin at the end, long after the truth has already faded. But what if Medusa's story is not about fear at all? What if it is about misunderstanding, power, and a life shaped by forces beyond personal choice? Today we explore a quieter, deeper version of Medusa's story, one that has often been overlooked. Long before her name became associated with danger, Medusa was a mortal woman. Unlike her sisters, Steno and Euryale, who were immortal beings, Medusa lived within the limits of human life. She experienced time, vulnerability, and the uncertainty that comes with being mortal. She was widely known for her remarkable presence. Stories described her calm expression, her gentle manner, and her hair, which many compared to sunlight woven into gold. Yet those who truly knew her spoke less about her appearance and more about her character. Medusa was devoted, disciplined, and deeply committed to her path. She chose to serve Athena, the goddess of wisdom, order, and strategy, as a priestess in her temple. This role was considered a great honor and required a life of restraint, focus, and dedication. Medusa accepted this responsibility willingly. Her days were shaped by ritual, learning, and service. She lived quietly, guided by purpose rather than attention. As time passed, her reputation spread. Travelers visited the temple from distant regions. Some came to worship Athena, others simply to witness the place and the people connected to it. Medusa remained respectful and distant, continuing her duties without seeking recognition. Attention, however, has a way of growing beyond intention. Her name eventually reached the awareness of Poseidon, the god of the sea and storms. His power was immense, and his influence extended across both gods and mortals. He took an interest in Medusa and sought her attention. Medusa declined. She remained committed to her role and her chosen path. In the world of Greek mythology, such boundaries were not always respected. Within the sacred space of Athena's temple, Medusa experienced a moment that would alter the course of her life forever. A moment defined by imbalance, authority, and the absence of protection. It was an event that removed her sense of safety and left her without support. She turned to the goddess she had served, hoping for understanding. What followed was not the response she expected. Athena's reaction was shaped by strict devotion to order and tradition. Rather than addressing the imbalance of power itself, she focused on the disruption of her sacred space. In doing so, responsibility fell where it could be enforced most easily, on the mortal. Medusa was transformed. Her appearance changed, and with it, her place in the world. Her hair became living serpents, and her gaze gained an extraordinary effect that made human connection impossible. These changes did not grant freedom. They created distance. She was separated from society and sent far from the world she once knew. Her sisters chose to remain with her. Out of loyalty and love, they shared her isolation, leaving behind the familiar world of gods and mortals. Together they lived far from others, known only through stories shaped by fear rather than understanding. Over time, Medusa's original life was forgotten. The priestess disappeared from memory, replaced by a simplified legend. Medusa herself did not seek influence or control. The power associated with her gaze was not something she chose or celebrated. It defined her existence and limited it. Imagine a life where connection is impossible, where solitude is permanent, and where identity is shaped entirely by how others speak of you. Medusa's story became less about who she was and more about what she represented. Years passed, and her name transformed into a challenge. Perseus, the son of Zeus, was sent on a journey by a king who believed the task would ensure his failure. The mission was clear: return with proof of Medusa's defeat. Perseus did not face this journey alone. He received guidance and tools from the gods, a polished shield to avoid direct sight, winged sandals to cross great distances, and protective gifts that allowed him to move unseen. When he reached the distant land where the Gorgons lived, he found them at rest. In that moment, Medusa was not a figure of threat or aggression. She was a life shaped by circumstance, waiting in quiet isolation. Her life ended swiftly, yet even then, her story did not conclude. From her legacy emerged Pegasus, the winged horse, and Chrysaor, symbols of continuity and creation. They represent what endured beyond her life, long after her voice had been lost. Perseus completed his journey and returned to the world of heroes. Medusa's image would later appear on Athena's shield, transformed into a symbol of protection and authority. But beneath the legend lies a different truth. Time passed, and the simplified version of Medusa's story remained. Medusa was not defined by cruelty. She was shaped by power, tradition, and silence. Her story invites us to look more carefully at the narratives we inherit and to consider who is given a voice and who is not. She was not born a monster. She became one in the stories that followed. And perhaps her greatest legacy is the reminder that history is often written from a distance, leaving complexity behind. Thank you for spending this time exploring a quieter version of a familiar myth. If you enjoy stories that revisit the past with a thoughtful perspective, consider subscribing for more reflections on mythology and history, and feel free to share which story you would like to explore next.